In my last video, if you saw it, I talked to a wonderful woman named Elizabeth, who I met when she was a toddler, and now she has become a very close friend of mine. Even though I've just known her a short time, I feel like I've known her forever. Anyway, this is her father, Terry. And Terry, I have Terry Stec and his wonderful wife, Rebecca. I met you after a long time. I met you when you had already been married and Elizabeth was a little baby. Mm-hmm. But you knew Jose.
Back in the day.
Back in the day when you both were single.
We were both earnest, ridiculous young men. But God had mercy on us.
Yeah.
God had mercy on us.
And you, I don't know if they can see, I think that they can. You've been through a very big trauma recently.
It's been a rough couple of years.
A rough couple of years. Terry, I talked about it in my last video with his daughter Elizabeth. He had to have his leg amputated. And he still is in the process of recovery, but we're here visiting them in Indiana and getting reacquainted. We haven't seen each other for like 29 years.
I guess I was at your wedding.
Yeah, you were at our wedding. Oh yeah, and we've been married almost 28 years.
You were just that girl that Jose married.
Yeah, yeah, you didn't know
May I share
me.
with your people, your audience, something?
Yeah.
I didn't, I know you just a tiny bit in passing, and many years ago. And I know Jose is, the mighty man of God who he's become. He wasn't when I knew him, but God is mighty, and anyway. So I didn't know you at all, and somehow, from stuff on the internet, I had you as the church lady. And I thought, I hope it's not too uncomfortable because I'm kind of an idiot and I just say anything and kind of a jerk. And I thought, she's going to be all
spiritual.
Real spiritual. And she is real spiritual. Let me get that clear. She's real spiritual.
But my viewers know
But she's like a goofball. And we're talking about stuff. I binge watched that show. Me too.
I know.
And we're freaking out.
All right, let's try this again. All right, wait. We missed it. Okay.
It was loud though.
There.
So we discovered that we have the same.
We're the same person.
And it's like, hey, my long lost missing sister.
I know.
I knew I was a twin. So it's been great fun.
It has
having
been.
Jose and Mary here. And so I can see why you guys are fans.
Well, I don't like to call them fans. They're my viewers.
I can see why you like to watch Mary. You got to track her down and go look at her in person.
Thank you.
She's
Thank
a
you,
dear,
Terry.
dear woman of God. And I'm excited to get to know you.
Thank you, Terry. But I want this video. I asked Terry to share something that he told me. That I knew nothing hardly about Terry until last night. And he was sharing something that blew me away. And it was how you were kind of like an agnostic?
An agnostic. I just ignored it.
You ignored it.
Yeah, I just didn't think about it.
Yeah, you were kind of living your life, not thinking about God.
It was the times. I was a kid of the 70s.
Yeah.
I was born in 1957, if you want to do the math. So, it was sex, drugs, rock and roll was our national anthem. And that was pretty much what I was interested in. My religion consisted of getting real high and listening to the Moody Blues.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, so I wasn't looking for anything particularly.
Yeah. And then what happened?
Well, I had somebody recommended this book to me. I don't even want to give details. I don't want people to go look it up. But it was a book about people channeling spirits and occult practice, and I didn't know anything about it. So I read it on some teacher's recommendation. Mm-hmm. So I was reading it, and toward the end of the book, they kept talking about Jesus. They'd have questions. Who was Jesus? And this spirit speaking to this guy said, he was a great soul who advanced, and came back to teach mankind. And I thought, really? I thought Jesus was made up.
Really?
I thought he was the Easter Bunny. I thought there was nothing historically underneath it. Really? Oh, no kidding. Then they all said, but he was misunderstood. He was a great teacher, but he was misunderstood. And I thought, that's not a good teacher. You know, if you're not
Yeah,
misunderstood. And so I thought, oh, I read the guy. Well, then at the end of that book, toward the end of the book, I had 3 horrible nightmares in a row, horrible, horrible nightmares. And the teacher said, when I mentioned it, she said, "Oh, that's good." And
Why
I
would
thought,
that be
you
good?
have a different definition of good than I have, lady. She said, that's the spirit world contacting you. I went like a Rocky and Bullwinkle, where he pulls, you know, let me pull that out of my hat. And it's like, eeny, beany, chili beany, you know, like what? What kind of nonsense is that? So she said, tonight's dream is going to be significant. And the nightmares were so horrible, I didn't want to go to sleep. I mean, I was sleeping with the lights on. I was freaked out.
Just by reading this book, it was causing.
Yes, I don't know where it came from, but these nightmares, I had never had nightmares, and they were horrific. They still
remember
give me the
them.
chills. It was horrible, and so the next night I was trying to pay attention. So the dream was this. You know how dreams evaporate,
Yeah.
and I was trying to transfer it from dream memory to conscious memory. And in the dream, I saw myself getting ready to go to school and go to my first class. And I'll spare you the details because it was full of every detail. And then when I went to school, that happened. Every exact moment happened as the dream was of this class, what was in the room, what somebody said, what this happened, what I did. And it happened exactly as I dreamt it. Well, this wigged me out.
Yeah.
A precognitive dream.
Yeah.
And, you know, what? It changed my worldview.
Yes, of
And
course.
so now this book is really fascinating. And I keep talking about Jesus. So I thought, I'll give the guy a
Wait,
read.
the occult book
The
talked
occult
about
book.
Jesus?
They would interview the spirit when he was in a trance and ask him questions. And they kept saying, who is Jesus? And tell us about Jesus. Oh, he was a great soul and all this. He was a great teacher, but he was misunderstood. And like I said, really? He's real? Oh, maybe I'll read the guy. And I like to read. And so I went. I didn't have a Bible, as far as I knew, in our house. I was 17. And I went to the occult bookstore in Coconut Grove, if you know the area.
In Florida.
The
in
hipster
Miami.
Coconut Grove, where I bought spiritual stuff, spiritual books. And I got a New Testament, brought it home, and just started reading it.
Explain, some people don't know what a New Testament is.
Well, it's that portion of the Christian scriptures, the Bible, as it's called, the Holy Bible. It's consists of the first part, which is many times bigger than the end part, that covers the Jewish scriptures, and Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, all that, Psalms, and so on. And some people want to read the Bible, they get all bogged down in the Old Testament. It's kind of hard going on your own. But the New Testament are the Christian scriptures, and it consists of the main thing, I think, is 4 versions. There were many gospel stories, but the church fathers decided they picked these 4 as the ones that had the best pedigree. They knew it went back to the original times. And it wasn't that long after I'm trying to think of the date when now it's fallen out of my brain. Anyway, so I just got the Christian scriptures and the stories, the Gospels, what it's called the Gospels, and at the front, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John are the names, and they're not that thick.
Yeah.
They're like a pamphlet, a few pages. And the New Testament isn't a big fat book. It's, a modest volume.
It's easy
and
read.
I like to read, and so I thought, oh, it's going to be a drag, but I'll read it. So I started reading, and it was great. It was refreshing. It was a story. It was a story.
Story about a man.
About a man walking around talking and doing stuff. And more on that later, why I think it's so important to remember that it's a story people are telling. And I liked it, and it was pretty cool. I thought, wow, Jesus was awesome.
Yeah.
No wonder he's the most quoted and revered, figure in Western civilization. Because he is. And I thought, he made it real clear who he was. He said to Jews, if you see the Father, you see me, you see the Father.
Yeah.
What? And when they were going to kill him for claiming to be God, he didn't say, whoa, boys, whoa, put down those nails. I'm just a guy. He let himself be crucified to stand by his claim. He was the son of God, which in the Jewish culture, being the son of was like saying, I have all of him.
Yeah.
It means more than it does in our language. He said, I'm God, and they killed him for it. Like, hey now, really? So that was good. That was Matthew.
So as a non-believer, what was happening in you?
I thought it was an interesting story, but I couldn't connect it with what I had seen and heard about Christianity. What I had seen and heard were like boring people in funny clothes and it was like, what is that? And just old people, and I didn't know any Christians.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Not any.
I didn't know anybody who claimed to believe it, and I thought it's ridiculous. But it's a great story, though. So that's Matthew. Then I read Mark, another person's story of the Jesus story, and it was just like another eyewitness account of what Jesus said and did. And again, I thought, Jesus is awesome. Man, I want to join the Jesus fan club. He's like really cool. I don't get this church thing, so forget that. I just read the Jesus story. And again, he suffers and dies, and he raises from the dead. Great. It's a story. Can't be real. So Luke and John, I read those other, and I started thinking about it. Like, if on every street corner there was a building and it said, the Center for People that have been abducted by aliens, and like millions of people said that and went to those meetings every week, you'd have to think, well, hey now, what's up with that? And I realized, there's everywhere you go, there's a church. Something happened. And all these people claim this and whatnot. So I was fascinated by what I read, and I realized I wanted it to be true. Mm-hmm. And I thought, it can't be true. It's obviously not true. It's crazy. And I actually thought, Mary, if this were true, wouldn't Christians be going around talking about it? I thought, oh yeah, they do, kind of, But I had never heard anybody give a compelling presentation of this. Just old people talking and stuff. So I finished the Gospels. I hadn't gotten into the book of Acts yet, which is it's like what happened after that. And I realized I wanted Jesus to be real.
And so then did you...
And I said, like, hello, this mic on. I said, God, are you there? If you're there, from what I read in this story, you hear this. Right? I mean, if this is true, you can hear this. Jesus, if you are real, would you show me? Just show me. It still makes me cry. Aww. I will follow you. And Mary, the room lit up. It was in the middle of the afternoon, and it was like a phosphorus grenade was ignited. The room lit with amazing brilliance, and there was a presence that was so overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And it was like a figure who was like shining so bright I couldn't see any features. And there was like singing or something, like the atoms in the room were singing for joy. Something great was there.
Oh my God.
And it was so powerful. And the voice said, yes, Terry, I'm real. Mm-hmm. And it blew me up.
Was it like an audible voice?
Yes, it was like an audible voice. It was in my heart, but I heard it clearly. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And this now radically changed the trajectory of my life.
Oh, Terry, that
and
touches me.
I still cry.
Would you?
Look,
I know
you are. I'm still crying.
It touched me so much. Would you?
I now grabbed the Bible and went, whoa, this is all real. I knew at once every word of it had meaning.
And it changed your life.
It changed my life. And I didn't know what to do. Do I go to church or what? And I went to church and they didn't know what to do with me. I'm like a hippie. I still smoked pot. I had long hair. And I came in with my Bible wild-eyed. Jesus is real. And it was like some Episcopalian church. And, they looked at me like, security, and nobody knew what to do with me. And it took me some time to find people. Jose was part of that group that I find after a few years. I found a group of people that were excited, that believed Jesus was real. It was very encouraging, and that was
Terry,
life-changing.
you know what? There's so many people out there that are going through hard times right now.
Yeah,
You know, a
absolutely.
lot of my viewers write to me and say that, you know, they are depressed and stuff like that. And I'd just like you to say a prayer for, you know, especially, it touched my heart so much that you were so touched right now that tears came out of your eyes. And would you just say it? Would
Sure.
you just...
Okay, I couldn't imagine the story was true. And here's what I encourage you to do. And I've told people ever since, this is what I encourage people. Get a New Testament, okay? It's easy to get, people give them away. I bet if you wrote Mary, she'd help you connect you. Get on the internet.
Yeah.
The Bible's all, you know, it's easy to get. The Gospels are 4 short stories. Read one of them. Pick one. Read all 4. But just read it as a book, as a story. Don't do a Bible study.
Yeah.
Maybe later. Don't do a Bible study. Don't have a dictionary and all this nonsense. Just read it. Okay? Just read it and see what it does for you. And I'll bet you that your heart will fall in love with the guy in the book. And you start thinking about, what if God was like that? Like he said, what if there was rather than chaos and blackness and nothing, what if there was a loving Father
Yes.
at the core of the universe? And he loved us. And he so loved the world. He came and paid the penalty for all the wrong we've ever done, so our record could be cleaned, so we could experience the presence of God. He goes, I'm going to do all the heavy lifting. Just take it. Take it. I love you. And I'm telling you, do that. Don't go to church. Don't listen to those. Don't worry about that. And people, you know, when I had that happen, I was sleeping with my girlfriend and anybody else that wouldn't have sex with me, and I was getting high, and I was a thief, and I was a bad guy. I was a bad guy. And I never thought about that or going to church. It was just, Jesus was real, and God loved us. And later, over the months and a couple of years, God began to just sort of reel me in, and those things fell off of me. All those things. And by the grace of God, I didn't find Christians. It was just me and God. And I didn't know I couldn't talk to God, and nobody told God not to talk to me. So it happened. And it was awesome. And later, when I met Christians, I was surprised to find out that that didn't happen to them. But I'm a scumbucket, and if God will talk to me, He will talk to you. Yes. I guarantee you. But all you got to do is give your heart a chance. Hear the story and see if your heart doesn't fall in love. And once you're in love, you know how you're in love? When you're in love, you're crazy and you'll do anything. Once you're in love, I'll bet, you know, it's over.
Yeah.
Then stuff can happen. And if you don't love God emotionally, I'm talking about love, like you love people. You know what love is. If you don't love God, it's a drag. Going to church is boring and an obligation. If you love God, man, you can't get enough.
So would you
anyway,
say, just say
you wanted me to
prayer.
pray for people. Father in heaven, I know there are people that are going to hear this who don't know you're real.
Yes.
And you love them. And I just pray that they would be so curious. What happened to that old guy? Why is that guy 40 years later still freaking out over what happened to him? Why is he crying over a 40-year-old event? Is there something there that you will seek out? Father, that they would find somehow the story and just read it, and I know you will touch them.
Thank you, God.
And you would protect them from well-meaning but misguided, I don't know, idiots who will tell them, you got to change everything, you're having sex wrong, your political views are wrong, blah, 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 blah. You know who has a right to tell you that? God.
That's right.
Everybody else, check. If you're not God, will you shut up?
I love you, Terry.
Well, it's true.
I agree. We are
Shut up.
We're the
Leave
same
them
person.
alone. Quit beating people up. And you know who God loves? Everybody.
That's right.
I was a fornicator, and the scripture makes no difference having sex with men or women. It doesn't, it doesn't matter. And you have to, everybody's got to lay their whole life on the altar, which when you love him, you do gladly, because you know he's got something good for you. So forget all that stuff. Come to him, cover with tattoos, STDs, and you're a communist and whatever. You could be a Democrat and come to Christ. That's a joke.
No politics here.
You can. That was a joke. So you could be a Republican and get saved. But come to Jesus and forget church for now, and maybe even later. That's another story. But just come to Jesus. And I've never met anybody who did that who was disappointed.
That's right.
Never, ever. And I would love to hear from people. Talk to Mary. Contact her. If you do this, take that challenge. Read the book, listen to it. You can hear it online. But just read the book and let your heart decide for you.
Thanks, Terry.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.